Live from 3 Cup Studio in Seoul, this is the GSL.
What's up, guys? We're back here at the GSL Codas. An exciting match coming up here. Zest versus Scarlett. Scarlett has been killing it lately, winning the Intel Extreme Masters in Pyeongchang. What was that, like 3 days ago, 2 days ago?
Yeah, it was like 3 days ago,
Yeah.
right? Like, it was today's Saturday, and that was Wednesday. So between there, I mean, God only knows how many days that is.
Nobody knows for sure.
It's probably
There's
2,
no way
3.
to possibly quantify that.
It's not a week because today would be Wednesday.
That's
and
right.
It's not.
Okay.
So it's less than
So
that.
we've narrowed it down to at least that. Zest also coming back from that tournament with, I think, in his opinion, lackluster results for what he wants to be achieving here. And now he has to overcome the most recent StarCraft 2 champion, Scarlett, also being aware that innovation is lurking in this group in the winner's match.
Yeah, it's not an easy group for him to get out of, and it's funny, right? Because chooses Scarlett to play against. You know, probably thinking, okay, you know what? Like, this is doable. She's good, but I can beat her. And then, like, 3 days ago, Tasteless, his world was rocked. He's like, uh-oh. And she just smashed SOS.
And here's the thing. If you can beat SOS, you can beat Zest.
Yeah, you can beat anybody.
Doesn't mean that she's going to win guaranteed 100%, but definitely if you can beat SOS in a finals, I think you're going to be okay against another Protoss, even the one as good as Zest.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's not forget here, like, they both got to see each other play this matchup down there. Okay, so he got to see a good 5 games of Scarlett, which was mostly aggression against SOS, so that's kind of valuable, you know. He knows the type of ways that she'll be aggressive in. And then, of course, she got to see a laser take down Zest. And that was a 3-1 as well, right? So, and in fact, Zest played Stefanos. That's a lot of games to study, to be honest.
Very true.
Kind of wanted to look. And the thing is, Zest does have a very specific style. He likes to open up with Stargate. He likes to follow with Archon's charge. Well, that's kind of standard for the matchup. But this is good info for Scarlett to have on him.
We now move on to the map, Neon Violet Square, in this best of 3. You cannot forget, it cannot be emphasized enough that innovation is floating in the winner's match. Leenock, by the way, looked pretty good. So he's no joke either in the loser's match. It's a tough group overall. Anyways, game number 1, Zest for Scarlett.
GSL Season 1, Code S, Daybreak. Zest.
Be opening this up on Neon Violet Square. It's a fun one. I like this map quite a bit, to be honest. The more we see it, the more we play it.
Team Expert, Scarlett.
An interesting story we have in front of us here is Zest was somebody who rose to the very, very top of StarCraft 2, and I basically fell off right before winning a championship at BlizzCon. Remember, everybody was saying he was the favorite. This was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then unable to deliver really since then, which is, something very difficult for a professional gamer to go through, where you are perceived as the best, and we don't know when that's going to stop. And then it, in fact, does stop, where it's Scarlett just now winning an Intel Extreme Masters is riding that high, but also feeling that pressure, too. You don't want to become the greatest in the whole world only to fade out, a month later. And Scarlett has said in previous interviews before that this tournament, the GSL Code S, is very important for her, and she is interested in advancing to the round of 8. And of course, Zest is someone who wants to reclaim that mantle of being the most respected Protoss in the world, but really, for him right now, one of the only ways he can do that is to advance further and further in the very same tournament.
I was kind of looking going into IM as maybe this is Zest's comeback story. A lot of Scarlett fans here today, and rightfully so. But
yeah, I can't say I'm surprised.
It's so true. We saw that video, that beautifully narrated video about Zest in, at IM, and like he was so good, and the thing is, he's still so good. Like if you watch his stream, especially last year where he had almost no results, like I mean, he did well a little bit here and there, but like he was the number 1 and 2 Protoss on the ladder for most of the year last year. You know, he's still showing great games, but unable to deliver a lot of the time, and it's kind of weird at this point. He says he's practicing so hard. Here he is. Oh, if he doesn't get to the round of 8, he's going to view this as a huge failure. I am Pyeongchang, and then GSL Code S, and he can't advance. That would be a heartbreaker for him.
Also, an interesting point to be made is that, for a lot of Korean players, a tournament where there are less Koreans is the desirable one, because it should be one where it's easier to come out higher up or even win. But I think the landscape of who's dominant where is slowly shifting, and that's not to say that the Koreans are becoming not as good. It's that the non-Korean players, I think, are catching up a little bit.
You are completely correct on this, and I'm not just saying this because there's some Blizzard people in the audience, but people gave a lot of trash talk to Blizzard when WCS came up and got all these changes. But the non-Korean scene is so strong at this point.
Yeah.
It's really, like, you look at it, it's like, yeah, I mean, Laser beat Zest and Scarlett beat SOS, and, we see Special get round of 4, 3 consecutive tournaments. It's like,
yeah,
okay, well, these top non-Korean players have truly hit this gigantic level.
We see now an attempted bust over there, but Zest is in too much of a good position and does hold that. And what you were saying can't be emphasized enough, Artosis, is that a lot of these players, when they saw them come out here and they were going to get a house together, I thought, well, this should be all that you really need is that and time.
Yeah. Well, look at this. Scarlett is turning on some massive aggression. She made the Oracle turn on twice there, so it's very low on energy. And now the Oracles fly past the army. This is brutal. I think Zest is about to die.
Yeah, well, especially with that bile connecting now.
Yeah.
And the entrance being cracked open here. Corrosive biles raining down. There's only one pylon powering this location.
Oh my gosh, as that pylon goes
That's
down.
It, right?
Not even really targeting that right now, but yeah, I mean, Scarlett just executing this rush. The flying units, where are they? They're coming back, but I mean, if these were here, maybe Zest holds this, but coming in this late, this is too much damage.
I think this is just way too much damage, and Scarlett's not slowing down, only making Zerglings now, so it's harder for all these units to be picked off, especially when they're spread out, since the Lings are, in fact, more mobile than the Oracles. And you can see now the probes are underfed. Already 25 have been taken out.
Well, I guess that's it. 4 Oracles sitting here cleaning up units, but as you run in more units, they run out of energy.
That's it. GG! Scarlett takes game 1.
Wow. A strong kill right there. Okay. She did a great job with those Lings running up back and forth. Like, that's very technical. You make it seem like the Lings are going all the way away. The Oracle shuts off as to not waste energy, but every turn on is worth a lot. And then where Zest Oracles were, he's like, okay, I'm going to send these for harassment. Just barely missed the incoming Roaches, Ravagers, and Lings.
I got to say, man, that was very impressive. I want to emphasize what you just said a second ago, because it's so important. Milking out the energy from the Oracles and making it look like you're trying to do a small harass, when in fact the real punch is coming right when you need to defend the most. And because that is a defense from Zest that requires energy and energy alone to pull it off, she completely caught Zest off guard, and Zest crumbled. Another game we've seen at StarCraft 2 where one player eliminates the other before the other player really gets to show the strategy that he had planned.
Yeah. It's this is how Scarlett has been mixing up recently. She's normally known as a top-end macro Zerg, but her rushes have become a thing of beauty. They just slaughtering Zest there. A lot of those games against SOS were kind of like this. Not specifically this build, but very aggressive early game pressure.
We now go to game number 2 on the map Catalyst.
GSL Season 1.
Zest for Scarlett.
Daybreak. Zest
Martosis. I know it was just one game back there, but I do want to point out that win looked a lot like the win, the victories that we saw with Scarlett versus SOS.
Yeah.
Short and sweet. Protoss was just not ready.
Team expert, Scarlett.
Well, we might have to see Zest play a bit more defensively there. Obviously, making oracles can be amazingly used defensively against that, right? You have to bank energy a little bit. You can't be turning your oracle on twice. I'm like 99% sure he turned his oracle on twice there, and that is...
No, you're correct. It was 2 times that the oracles were being used, and not always were they firing.
Yeah.
The Lynx came in, did a little bit of damage enough to make it look like Scarlett was being a little bit too greedy,
if you're not,
and then she ran out.
And if you're not right on top of those Lynx, eggs out in the audience. Of our young, up-and-coming StarCraft 2 pros. But, look, if you're not right on top of those Lynx as they run away and you have your oracle on, you've got to turn it off. Because they won't come back, you know?
Yeah.
They're not going to just run under an oracle again. And then if you have to turn that on again because you only have one adept in that wall, that's a painful situation.
You basically have a really stellar defense, but the defense is an iPhone with 5% battery, and if you don't use that correctly, then you don't have
you got to turn off
anymore.
your location services
That's
and
right.
your Bluetooth.
Put it on airplane mode.
Yeah.
Make sure that Facebook app isn't on because that takes up way too much battery as well.
Certainly. In fact, delete that off your phone. It's a time waster.
There's no point in using social media anymore. But yeah, in all seriousness, that's what she did. She made it so that there was no battery essentially there. In this case, the energy on the oracles to actually defend that. Now, I don't know what game number 2 is going to look like. I think that is a pretty scary game number 1, considering Zest is, of course, more than aware of how Scarlett won against SOS, that she's able to do it in a similar fashion. It's not the same strategy, but it's the same concept. It's a very aggressive bust on a Protoss who's trying to play an economy game.
And you know what's interesting about this Tasteless, though, is I feel like he was prepared. And that might sound stupid because he just got wrecked, but he was making multiple oracles. And if you make multiple oracles, these rushes really don't have the same efficacy, right? He has a quick Phoenix that'll knock out any dropping overlords, which is what she used a lot against SOS.
Right.
And then he made multiple oracles. In fact, he had 4 oracles there at the end. But it looked to me like he was going to make 3 almost no matter what. And if he had seen that coming, it doesn't really do anything. You can make a building wall, you can make some shield batteries, you can utilize your oracles and your Phoenix, and you can whittle down that push and, not lose all your probes. You can continue to make some units there, take another base. Now, I don't know if Zest will continue to do this, multiple oracle play, but I'm just saying, like, it seems like he was prepared for Scarlett and then just kind of messed it up a little bit. So I'm not looking at that first game and saying that Scarlett's just going to 2-0 him, you know?
No, in fact, I think even if she won this, I would expect it to be a 2-1. But I've got my eyes on anything that happens early game in this series because that's what Scarlett's shown that she's very strong at. So we have the Phoenix coming through here now. Try to monitor the tech and the positioning here of the Zerg.
And the Phoenix first, of course, that knocks out any Zergling drops, which, again, used so heavily against SOS, Scarlett did.
And it's also great to just take out 1 or 2 overlords on the map. I mean, then the Phoenix is basically already paid for itself, and Phoenix has utility throughout a game, as does an Oracle. That's why we see so many Protoss players actually go for a Stargate early on, is that the units usually pay for themselves. Zerg doesn't have a simple way to protect against them moving around the map.
Yeah.
So you can usually get a good read, and of course you can threaten the workers. And then later on, you can tag the army. Let's say it's a bunch of lurkers or a big Roach Ravager army. You can tag it. You can at least know where it's coming from. And since positioning is so important for Protoss, that helps out a lot since you can try to preempt the moves they're going to try to take on the map to punish you.
By the way, a 3rd Oracle came out, a 4th Oracle on the way. So Zest has changed his style. This is an older style from before the Nuracle.
The Nuracle.
Yeah, well, it is a Nuracle now because it's a nerfed Oracle. But
the Nuracle sounds like an Oracle nerd that can predict all the GSL wins.
Truthfully, the nerf was really against Terran, right? Not as much against Zerg. Technically, it is still a nerf against Zerg, but 3 Oracles flying in. This could be some serious damage.
Okay, good control here by Zest. No oracles have been picked up. The Phoenix remains in the game. I think actually he might get pinned though. All right, so once Phoenix is hit, this is a risk that Protoss can end up taking when they try to fly up through the main, since there is a limit to the distance you can fly north on the map. But actually, I think with this play, this really, in some ways, completely paying for itself and making it much worthwhile. 12 drones picked off.
Even with a bit of miss micro there, we saw that they were attacking the Spore just for a moment. You could have gotten a couple more drones there. But look, these Oracles showing that this strategy maybe not 100% dead, but the creep spread has been very straightforward going south here. And Queens are starting to roam about the map. We see 3 more Queens on the way, so this is going to be a massive Queen Roach Ravager attack from Scarlett, against which Oracles are not as powerful.
And this is all being telegraphed with the movement of Scarlett on the map, the fact that creep is being pushed out aggressively, the fact that there's such a high number of Queens. Now, one answer that Zest might have to this is that he's not just going for Immortals, but doing that out of 2 Robo Bays. So, you know, Immortals are usually the backbone of every fight for Protoss.
Yeah.
If you watch and see, are the Immortals, now I'm doing it.
Immortals?
What's an Immortal? If the Immortals are doing enough damage and they're not being picked off, usually the Protoss wins the fight.
That was pretty significant force fields right there, picking off a decent chunk of army that really did no damage to Zest. He's warping in some of these shield batteries over here. A big army here from Scarlett. Can Zest actually hold on? I think that the Nexus living is a pipe dream.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is a good defensive posture from Zest at the same time.
Well, once the Nexus is picked off, it's going to give a much bigger berth for the army to try to move through. And, well, hold on. I mean, did Zest actually overextend? A lot of this just comes down to the force fields being planted. But the Oracle's over here doing a great job actually going to trap some of that army.
Oh, that is gigantic right there. That is going to turn the tide, I think. Zest with 4 Immortals still sitting here. High hell.
Well, Scarlett's continuing to make Zerglings that come in here from behind. And when these Roaches are done, actually, I'm sorry, there's no more Zerglings here, so the Immortals should just kill everything, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, you would think so at this point. And that is what's happening. These Immortals going to be able to clean up the rest of everything. Now, Zest did lose his 3rd base. That is important. Right. He did lose an Immortal and about 5 or 6 sentries in there. So these are not nothing that he lost, but I tell you, if that Stasis Ward hadn't gone off, he was going to lose a hell of a lot more right there.
It seems like it seems as though Zest actually wants to punch back here. There's a Warp Prism coming up with the 2 Oracles still remaining, especially if those are comboed in with the fight. Maybe Zest can actually come back and try to wipe out this 4th base. Interesting game here. I wonder how this would have looked had that Oracle trap not gone off. It's because that's a tough one. Like, Zerg can't really move out of it easily. I mean, I think that's just a tough one.
Well,
you know,
it is tough because the Queens are there. You have to stay and fight. But like that many units frozen for that long, I think that Zest still holds there, but has almost nothing left over. Whereas here, he had like 5 Immortals left.
Well, here's the thing: is that I think Hydras are not bad against Immortals, but I don't think there's going to be enough of them. I think there are, in fact, more Immortals than there are Hydras in this game right now. So this may actually be a knockout blow here, and we will be going to game number 3.
I think you're right about that. Well, I mean, Zest defended well and knocks out this 3rd base. Scarlett in a lot of trouble right now, trying to remove some of these rocks, trying to get back into a decent position.
The nature of an attack like that from Scarlett is that you are very exposed if it doesn't work out. So we see Zest coming forward now, and unless I'm mistaken, I don't think you can really stop this. I think this just continues to push forward here. The force field's all quite good. The Warp Prism in a very safe position. In fact, no more Ravagers to try to snipe that down with Corrosive Bile.
One of the most valuable Guardian shields I've ever seen right there.
Right.
I can't believe he didn't lose that sentry, but really well done by Zest here. Scarlett once again trying to turn on some aggression, but Zest with a solid hold in such a solid counterattack. I love the Stalker Warp-ins. The fact that he was able to keep so many Immortals alive was key, of course. I mean, this was cool. And let's not forget, 2 games in a row now. Good 4 Oracle openings by Zest. So he's on top of this cheese up. I think this is where Scarlett has to change completely what she's doing. She should not be going for these early aggressive moves because 4 Oracles really is good against him. The push he just did is okay against that, but he had the follow-up of the Immortals, of the Sentries, and especially on this next map, Ascension to Iron, are a huge map.
He had all the tools necessary, and he did dismantle Scarlett in that game. I do have to wonder, would those results have been different if 12 drones had not been picked off? Maybe. because you don't have as much of an engine behind you when you lose that many workers to try to do the push. But even then, I think that attack from Scarlett was maybe a little bit too, I don't want to say milquetoast, but I mean, that's an attack we've seen before. I think a lot of the other aggressive plays she's done have been a little bit more methodical. Let's see what happens now in game number 3.
GSL Season 1, Code S, Daybreak. Zest.
I do wonder if neither player tries to give the other one a black eye in the first few minutes of the game. What does an actual long game look like between these two?
Yeah.
Is Scarlett actually better than Zest in a macro game? I mean, that is a tough one to call.
Oh,
Team
yeah.
expert, Scarlett.
It certainly is. She's been playing very aggressively recently. And here's the thing. Ascension to Ire is one of these maps where you can get a very long game on it. It's not particularly easy to kill your opponent. You know, sure, you can hit some of these early rushes and all that, but overall, if you kind of live through the early game, it's pretty easy to get up, relatively speaking, of course. 99% of players in the world can't do that against these two, but for a pro gamer to get up to, 4 bases, 5 bases on this map, get that full tech tree out. But again, what I want to see from Scarlett here, and this is a hard one, right, because she came in very aggressive, she's been playing aggressively, it's been working out. If Zest opens 4 oracles twice in a row, don't rush him. Making that many oracles, man, things like Roaches, Ravagers, Lings, you're putting a lot of money into something that is not necessarily going to work out and do anything.
I agree with you, but just to play devil's advocate for a second, I would also say that maybe Scarlett has got enough intel on how he moves those oracles and where he wants them to go versus where he can be punished that maybe she's got another plan. But I'm really hoping overall that we actually see just a macro game from these two.
Yeah.
Because I think they've both been punished enough early on. And, normally if you're going to get to a GSL Code S finals, you're handling yourself by being dynamic in a best of 3 and a best of 5. And if you get that far, a best of 7.
Well, from Zest's side, he doesn't mix things up as much as some players do. I think he just kind of relies on his overall skill set, which is immaculate in every area. One of those, what is it, a pentagram chart that you fill out. He fills up the whole thing. We're just like, why is there just a blue pentagram here? It's like, well, those are Zest skills. He's full on all of them.
Yeah. He's maxed out his stats.
Yeah.
We got to wait for the next expansion where you can keep grinding and leveling up.
Yeah. I think that he looked at this group. He looked at the way Scarlett has been playing recently, and he looked at what he's been losing to, and he looked at Leenock as the other player and just said, you know what? If I make Phoenix to stop drop overlords and then I just make multiple oracles, I'm not going to die to anything. I think that he looks at game 1 as a fluke. He barely didn't see those units incoming. It was bad pathing on his part on those oracles. But yeah, I think he's probably looking at this and saying, no problem. I'm just going to stay with this build order.
Zergling Ling's speed is just now finished up. And from here, it's going to be Zest who has to be cautious on the map with ground units. Even though you can outmaneuver speedlings, if you make one mistake, usually the Adept is picked off. And again, Zest following, at least with openings, a similar pattern. Yeah. Phoenix first into several oracles, continuing to move out on the map. And it's Scarlett powering up onto a third base. And we see no other Lings. I think there's only 2 more Zerglings in this game right now, as Scarlett has completely gone into droning, which means that, at least for the time being, it does appear that Scarlett wants to steer this game into one where they're both powering up and having bigger armies.
Still great anti-air defense. Multiple queens at every base, getting those spores up in time, no problem. Will she go for that Roach Warren? If she skips it, I'm loving it, man. I feel like these two are so smart, such good players at this point. Okay, the Roach Warren is coming up. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or anything, but if she goes aggressive with this, things could go south.
So the Oracles are skirting around the edges of the territory of Scarlett here. As we're waiting to see if any actual damage is going to be dealt. Zest is now taking a third base. Those Adepts in a position where they can be kind of wedged in there and not easily surrounded by Lings. And if the Zerg was to make a bunch of Lings, which in this case she is not going to do that, they would be shaved down by the Oracle. So both players pretty safe. And here's what we were looking for. How many worker kills can Zest get? And, you know, even though that was only 2, the fact of the matter is that that one Oracle that was shot at wasn't killed. So everything's still fine here for Zest. And it's the double robo again.
Yeah, that's really cool to see that he's going double robo here as well. There are some roaches on the way. This is kind of the new meta in this matchup. So many Protosses have been going for charge Archon-type plays, very aggressive plays after the Stargate openings. And you see this kind of reflected in these build orders, but does she get aggressive with it? It really doesn't look like it right now. Hydralisk Den on the way, more drones on the way, Evolution Chamber on the way. This is all pointing towards a macro play.
And so we are getting the game that we had hoped for here. With Zest third base now up. And particularly with the double robo, it makes the Protoss army really scary to try to fight.
Yeah.
So Scarlett is going to try to... Oh, yes, she gets it up. take a fourth base.
Yep.
Zest had his screen over those Oracles, because that's why they were there, was to try to find a drone and kill it.
Yep.
Then she would have gotten her fourth base up a little bit later, but the game does go on now.
Still some decent harassment coming out with these Oracles. Loving this play.
Pretty good
Such a great
pulls.
metagame shift by Zest here. I feel like the ladder is going to be different tomorrow.
It will be.
It seems like he's correctly adjusted to the way Zergs have been playing a little bit more recently.
The ladder will also not be different in the sense that somebody did some crazy cheese we haven't seen before. And if you didn't watch GSL before you laddered, you would not know what's going on, as everybody's doing the same cheese over and over.
Oh my god, it's so true. Occasionally I'll hit someone on the ladder, I'll do a cheese I saw in GSL the night before, and I once had a Terran guy go to me, he goes, "Why is every Protoss doing this today?" After I killed him. I was like, oh, like Hero did this last night. It's like, ah!
It's so funny how that could happen, though,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
It's so true.
You know, big tournament's on, that's what happens.
There might have been a strategy that only a dozen people were doing, but the moment it's on TV, everybody's like, oh, I see it now.
Yeah.
That looks pretty strong.
So true. A lot of Hydras being made, a Lurker Den on the way,
Ooh.
even the Infestation Pit on the way, so that's kind of cool.
Very good job here by Zest and Scarlett. Zest just trying to get wherever the drones are being transferred, looking for any holes. It does take out two drones. I mean, it's 3 Oracles total, right? We did not go up to 4.
I believe he stayed on 3 this time.
I don't think there was one picked off.
Yeah. I believe you're right on that.
So Scarlett's now on to 5 bases. The Psionic Storm's not done yet. I don't think we're going to see a push come out here for Zest, especially with Storm on the way. It just seems like it would be a bad timing here when you would have so much more damage that you could output once Psystorm is done.
This game is being so immaculately played on both sides.
It really is.
I want to pause the game and talk about it for like 10 minutes, the things that they're doing. Like we see the double observers in the center watching the actual paths things come up on. We see the 3 Oracles. They didn't do that much harassment damage, but they have been tagging things. They've been checking the tech. They've been checking the army. And Zest just taking that 4th base, realizing, oh, okay, this is the type of game that we're in, right? And sure, Scarlett's still walking around with a kind of scary army, but Zest preparing for absolutely everything, going up to the fleet beacon, getting his Psystorm. I'm getting chills. Both sides are playing this game so well right now. Like, both are playing right on the edge of greed.
So, things are continuing to mount up. Scarlett nearing a maxed out supply. Zest, and this is actually completely natural, the supply that he's at right now. He's getting close to about 150. And Scarlett going with the Lurker tech. Now, I don't know if she really wants to push in with the Lurkers, especially to the front, if it's this many Immortals. Unless she gets like a really good angle. I actually think it's kind of an odd game where I think Scarlett wants to try to get a better position and absorb Zest's army. As Zest is now on a 4th base. And I mean, when you're in a Zerg vs. Protoss where Zerg's on 5 bases, the Protoss is on 4, we're getting to the point where the crazy tech happens, and that's this right here. The carrier's coming up.
Well, against Lurkers, this can be a fantastic play.
Sure.
And she's committing pretty well to Lurkers. A decent amount of Lurkers coming out, getting those digging claws or whatever the other name is of it right now. As we see, adaptive talons, of course, that's it. But yeah, like the carriers are a very good counter to that. But look at this 5-7 drop overlords on the way for Scarlett. Another new shift that we've seen. By the way, we are 10 minutes into a Legacy of the Void, Protoss versus Zerg, and there hasn't been a Warp Prism.
I know.
Take that. Think about that for a moment. Look at how dynamic a game this is. That two top-of-the-world players, there's not a Warp Prism.
We have a push over here at the front. Now, we did see some drop overlords being made here. This is a strategy that was usually used a lot more in Brood War since drops were a little bit easier for Zerg to get, but doing a big drop into the main? Am I crazy? Those are drop overlords being made somewhere.
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
totally
yeah.
wrong? Okay,
There's drop overlords.
I don't know where they are right now, okay?
They are, though.
They're out there.
Man.
So the fact that these drop overlords are being made means Scarlett might try to drop into the main, which could be very, very punishing. And actually, I think this is a mistake to send these carriers down here. Don't these interceptors just die? I think we're going to have that drop now as Scarlett... Hold up, here we go. Big attack coming up here, and a lot of Storm just draining away the hit points there.
Yeah.
Oh, my eyes.
The kind of a fake drop gone wrong maybe there by Scarlett, but Scarlett's still trying to hit multiple locations. The carrier's not doing a whole lot yet, and in fact, Scarlett adding double Spire, knowing that she is going to have to transition because it doesn't seem like she's going to get any real damage done here against Zest and his 4 bases.
So this is really a game where the map control is going to Scarlett, but if she overextends one too many times, it's going to trigger a counter push here from Zest. But Scarlett needs to be a bit conservative, I think, from here on out with her armies.
Oh my god, we didn't see it? But I think those initial 2 carriers that went down, they lost their interceptors, kept going and died to the Hydras.
Oh, did they?
Because there's only 2 carriers out right now, and we just saw them fly out of the starports.
That's a big reset button for the late game tech for Zest.
That's huge.
But again, if Scarlett could stay conservative and then pick the right fight and switch techs, that's usually how Zerg wins in the late game. So you can see she moves out like this, but it's almost feigning pressure. I don't believe that she's ever actually going to commit in and try to attack this because I think that'd be futile, really.
Yeah, I think you're basically right about that. Like, she's poking and seeing if something can go wrong. You know, if you accidentally attack into some lurkers, things can go very poorly for Protoss very quickly. But Zest is being careful. He's done some great scouting. Looks like he loses another Oracle there.
Was that the last Oracle? Because they're usually moving together in a group.
I think there's one more, but I think he split them now. Ooh.
Gets that Templar too. Zest is actually hemorrhaging maybe too many units here.
By the way, that moment showing why the Templar attack ad was a nerf. That thing would not have walked forward if it didn't have an attack.
So, the fact that the carriers can't build up means the Hydras still get to basically hold this position. They're like little minigun siege tanks that can hit air. And that means that every time these interceptors come out, I think Zest is making some mistakes by sending interceptors out at all. You need to have all of them ready, and you have to know that you're going to win the fight, because otherwise everything just dies. And I'm not sure if this is a control issue or an execution, or it's just a knowledge issue about what you can and cannot engage into. Because you see, look at it, it's happening again. And that means they're just going back and remaking.
Well, Scarlett almost has like 3-3 here on these units, so that's like really neat. Also getting 1-1 on her Spires, making some Corruptors here.
It's worth noting that the 5th base for Zest is being taken. So this is getting pretty wild. Now look at this drop that's going to happen in the main. That's all Hydras, right?
That's all Hydras.
So the carriers can't really go back. Immortals, those are not fast.
Well, it might have to just recall in. There should be energy for that, I would imagine.
That's true, but then I think Zest can be punished elsewhere.
Well, the Corruptors here are really going to help out a lot. The Side Storms from the low ground, very nice moves by Zest.
At this point in time, Scarlett, for a second there, was winning on both fronts. Now the carriers have been pulled back. I don't see any other attack occurring just yet up here.
Oh, good pullback by Zest. I'm surprised that one carrier didn't get picked off. More Corruptors coming in, though. 2 carriers falling here.
Okay, good targeting here by Scarlett. It's now, I think that's 3 carriers total. Although it's possible there's more that are going to come out here. Kind of a game of cat and mouse here, back and forth. And we've had 5 carriers killed off so far. Very good play here by Scarlett.
Yeah, I'm actually continually getting kind of chills during this game, because looking at this game, this is one of the most dynamic coolest PVZs I have seen in so long.
Oh, this is
Look
sick.
at this. She's
This is
even
sick.
utilizing her corruptors right now.
Okay, this is funny because I feel like we don't see this enough in pro games, but it's happening more and more. And the fact that this base was never, I think, adequately defended
my
as
God.
the pro transfer happens.
That's huge. And now the
Goodbye.
corruptors get out for free. What great usage. And look at this. As Zest is going for the counter, Scarlett attacking into the fourth base. Oh, but the Size Storms are totally ready.
Okay, I actually don't think Scarlett's going to have enough to defend this attack over here.
Well, she's going to wipe out the carriers in 2 seconds with that many corruptors. But yeah, the ground army could be an issue.
Okay, the carriers are actually pulled back. Good move there. The corruptors are meaningless against
God.
the ground army. We see Templars being picked up. I still want to catch this push here by Zest that's down here at the 6th base.
Where is the anti-air here? Once these corruptors kill that, they could actually possibly kill the Nexus even. This ground counterattack, though, definitely has some potential.
We have already another Spire being remade, so we may have 3 Spires in this game. Scarlett definitely playing a safe round here. Again, though, these Immortals that have been built... Wait, hold on. Is she just going to do it again?
Yeah, look at that. This can happen. There's only a few Stalkers here, but Zest knew things like this could happen. Got Blink for his Stalkers, but can't stop him in time.
That's so sick. We might see that happen a couple more times in this game. And Scarlett's switched back into Mass Hydras. And, of course, what is the real muscle in Protoss's army? I think besides Templars, it's just those Immortals, which are not great against Hydras for sure.
Well, there's a lot of Void Rays that have been created at this point. There has to be a good 5-6 Void Rays, maybe even more out. Some good amount of Size Storms, a lot of Immortals still out here.
It's an awkward moment here. Do you really want to storm that? I don't think so.
This is getting kind of funny. I'm almost thinking that we definitely need to see a Greater Spire off that 3rd Spire.
I agree.
Broodlords might actually be the weapon of the day at some point here. Like, yeah, Void Rays can kill them, but there's a lot of Corruptors and a lot of Hydras out as well.
Is he going to do it again?
Oh, my God.
Here we go. Scarlett now. She's actually going to try to take out another Nexus, and then these Corruptors come in over here again.
Dude, a cannon does not stop moves like this. That damage ramps up crazily. Look at this, these Stalkers.
This is looking so funny.
Oh my God, just every Nexus being picked off over and over. But this army is serious.
It's important that Scarlett holds off this attack. If she doesn't, it doesn't really matter about the Nexuses over there. But a good position here.
Oh.
Okay, there are 2 observers. They're far back. These Hydras can snipe those.
Those Lurkers just dealing ludicrous amounts of damage right now.
But she's going to win this fight pretty handedly. We see that it's now going into 20 more Hydras being made.
That is a lot of Hydras.
But check this out. I think the Corruptors just gun down everything, and then it's a ground army.
It's a lot of Void Rays in here. You turn on those Void Rays, you get the Archons underneath. Maybe it goes the other way. Great micro by Scarlett, though. Look at this kiting right now with those Corruptors. Size Storms all over those Hydras. Oh, taking a ton of damage.
Scarlett's been bunched up to just the right side of the map. There isn't a 5th base just south of here, but it's not being mined from. It's not being defended. Corruptors trying to loop around. And actually, this angle could be quite good, depending on how the Psionic Storms pair with the Hydras.
Oh, man, those Void Rays fighting against these Corruptors very well. They're going to clean those up pretty easily. Some charge lots come in.
Oh, my God, there's too many Hydras. Too many Hydras here for Scarlett. These Void Rays are not fast, certainly not against Hydras on creep.
The Void Rays being picked off so easily once they go into their siege run, and that's it.
Zest is at 86 supply, while Scarlett's at 165. Zest scrambling to try to get Zealots out here now, but there are Lurkers inbound.
Wow.
That's it, GG!
Scarlett advancing to the winner's match to go up against Innovation. I tell you what, that series was really sick. So well played on both sides. Tasteless, am I a bad person for hoping Innovation gets out first so I can see Zest Scarlett again?
The answer is yes, Artosis. You're a horrible human being for wanting Innovation. Yes. Look, Zest obviously frustrated with that game, but I gotta say, man, Scarlett really showed that whether it's an aggro game or a long, drawn-out strategic macro game, she is the full picture.
The amount of tactics that we saw used there no longer is PvZ, this weird turtle fest where just carriers get masked and then we have one big spellcaster battle. Nuh-uh. All over the place, both of them there. A wonderful Game 3. Next, we're going to have Innovation against Scarlett for the first player in the round of 8.